The fluorescent lights of Richmond RCMP headquarters buzzed quietly as Detective Lisa Wong stared at her laptop screen. It was 3:47 a.m. on October 15th, 2024, and what she was looking at should have been impossible. 2 marriage certificates, same woman, same signature, different grooms, different countries, both completely legal. On the left, Meera Kapoor and Ryan Thompson, married August 3, 2024, in Richmond, British Columbia. On the right, Meera Kapoor and Arjun Malhotra, married December 12, 2019, in Chandigarh, India. Detective Wong had seen fraud cases before, but nothing like this. How do you commit bigamy across international borders without either husband knowing? And more importantly, why did one of them end up dead? To understand this twisted story, we need to go back 18 months, when 2 lonely hearts connected across an ocean. Neither knew they were walking into a web of lies that would destroy multiple families forever. Ryan Thompson was the perfect victim. At 35, he worked as a cybersecurity analyst for Microsoft Vancouver. He lived alone in his $750,000 Richmond condo and drove a BMW X3 to cultural festivals on weekends, always by himself. The loneliness started when his parents died in a house fire 6 years ago. They left him $450,000, but money couldn't fill the emptiness. A bad breakup 4 years later made things worse. He was afraid to trust anyone, but desperately wanted the family connection he'd lost. Working from home meant Ryan could go days without talking to another person. He tried dating apps for 3 years, but only found shallow connections that made him feel more alone. The only time he felt happy was volunteering at Vancouver's cultural festivals. He loved seeing the close families there, especially in the Indian community. On his desk sat his parents' wedding photo. He looked at it every day, wanting that same happiness. His Indian colleague at Microsoft noticed his sadness and suggested something that would change everything. Arranged marriage isn't old-fashioned, Ryan. It's smart. These relationships are built on compatibility, not just looks. In February 2023, Ryan created a profile on matrimony.com. He was completely honest about his job, his values, and his desire for children. Within a month, 62 women had responded. For the first time in years, Ryan felt hopeful. He had no idea he was about to become prey. Meera Kapoor was a master liar. To Ryan, she seemed perfect. 27 years old, computer science graduate from Punjab University, working as a software developer in Mohali. She claimed to be single and career-focused, dreaming of moving to Canada's tech industry. Her family sounded wonderful. Father was a government engineer, mother was a teacher, and she had one older sister. She talked passionately about using technology to bring people together. Every word was a lie. The truth was much darker. Meera had been married to Arjun Malhotra since December 2019. She was trapped with an abusive husband who had no job and beat her whenever he lost money gambling. She lived with his controlling parents who treated her like a slave. When she tried to file domestic violence charges, family pressure forced her to drop them. Her plan to marry Ryan wasn't about love, it was about survival. Meera's deception was incredibly sophisticated. She used a separate phone and fake address for all contact with Ryan. She created a false LinkedIn profile with a tech company that Ryan couldn't verify from Canada. She studied his social media obsessively, copying his interests and values perfectly. Her master plan was simple but cruel. Marry Ryan, get Canadian citizenship, then bring Arjun to Canada as her cousin who needed help. She would have 2 husbands in 2 countries, and neither would know about the other. Meera was brilliant at reading people and becoming whoever they wanted her to be. Years of abuse had traumatized her, but she used that pain to become a strategic thinker. In her mind, surviving justified any lie. She felt no guilt about the elaborate deceptions she was creating. The digital romance began on February 20th, 2023. Meera's first message was perfectly written. "Hi Ryan, your profile caught my attention because you mentioned wanting to build something meaningful. I'm a software developer who believes technology should bring people together, not divide them. I'd love to learn about your work and dreams for the future." They started talking every day. At 7 a.m. Vancouver time, 7:30 p.m. in India, Ryan would see Meera's smiling face on video calls. She scheduled these calls carefully when Arjun was out gambling or drinking. She used internet cafes and co-working spaces to look like an independent single woman. The lies came easily. She showed him fake office setups while talking about software projects that didn't exist. She used random photos of strangers, claiming they were her parents and sister. She described an apartment she rented by the hour, telling stories about the independence she'd never actually had. Ryan was falling hard. He started learning Punjabi phrases to impress her family. He researched Indian wedding traditions for hours. He began planning to turn his home office into a nursery. He told his coworkers about the amazing woman he'd found. The warning signs were everywhere, but love made him blind. Meera never called from the same place twice. She always had excuses for why her family couldn't meet him directly. Sometimes she would disappear for days when Arjun was particularly violent, but Ryan thought she was just busy with work. When he offered to send flowers to her office, she said company policy didn't allow personal deliveries. By May 2023, Ryan was completely in love with a woman who didn't exist. Meanwhile, Meera realized she'd created the perfect escape plan. But to make it work, she would need to become someone else entirely and eliminate the man who already thought he was her husband. The trap was set, the victims were chosen, and the deadliest love story in Canadian immigration history was about to begin. June 10th, 2023 was the day Ryan Thompson decided to change his life forever. He had been planning the perfect proposal for weeks, designing a custom website filled with their photos and love letters. He spent $18,000 on a diamond ring from Berks, Vancouver, writing a heartfelt speech about bridging cultures through love. He even set up his laptop to record everything, wanting to save this moment for their future children. On the video call, Ryan's hands shook as he got down on one knee in his Richmond condo. "Meera, you've made me believe in love again. Will you marry me and build a life together in Canada?" Meera's response was perfect. Tears streamed down her face as she cried, "Yes, yes, of course." She claimed to be overwhelmed with pure joy. But inside, she felt something different entirely. Relief. Freedom was finally within reach. What Ryan saw as tears of happiness were actually tears of desperation. Meera knew she had to move fast. Her timeline was getting dangerous, and she needed to finalize her divorce from Arjun quickly before Ryan discovered the truth. But Meera was smart. She immediately suggested they have a traditional Punjabi engagement ceremony to honor her family. She told Ryan that Indian tradition required the groom's family to show commitment by paying for gold jewelry and celebration costs, about $8,000. Ryan eagerly sent the money, seeing it as a beautiful way to respect her culture. In reality, Meera used every penny to pay an expensive divorce lawyer in Chandigarh. She told Arjun she was taking a high-paying job in Delhi and needed to separate from him temporarily. She filed additional domestic violence complaints to strengthen her divorce case and began creating forged documents to completely erase her marriage history. The next challenge was bigger. Ryan wanted to meet her family. In July 2023, Meera pulled off what might be the greatest acting performance in fraud history.
She hired an established theater group in Chandigarh, paying them 75,000 Indian rupees to pose as her family for video calls. The father spoke perfect English and claimed to admire Canadian values. The mother performed traditional blessings and demonstrated cooking skills that impressed Ryan. The fake sister gushed about her excitement to visit Canada for the wedding. Ryan was completely convinced. He enrolled in intensive Punjabi language classes at his community center. He studied Sikh wedding ceremonies through university courses. He planned an elaborate trip to India to seek formal blessing from her family. He even adopted a strict vegetarian diet to align with what he thought were her family's religious values. Meanwhile, Meera was building an entire false identity. She provided fake birth certificates with the actors' names as her parents. She created fraudulent employment verification and detailed salary statements. She submitted expertly doctored bank statements showing substantial savings. She even obtained a forged single-status certificate through a corrupt municipal official. But behind the scenes, her situation was becoming deadly. Arjun had discovered her frequent absences and mysterious new phone. He followed her to an internet cafe and saw her having emotional conversations with a foreign man. In a rage, he threatened to throw acid on her face if she was having an affair. That's when Meera realized the truth. To survive this plan, she would have to permanently eliminate Arjun. From August to December 2023, both Ryan and Meera prepared for their wedding, but in very different ways. Ryan hired the best immigration lawyer in Vancouver for $12,000. He submitted a comprehensive sponsorship package with all his financial statements, detailed property ownership documents, and employment verification. He wrote a passionate 5-page letter about how love transcends borders and how he couldn't wait to build a family with Meera. Meera, on the other hand, connected with a sophisticated document forger in Delhi's criminal underground. She paid $3,000 to $5,000 Canadian dollars for a complete identity makeover package. This included fake employment history dating back 5 years, fraudulent police clearance certificates, and medical documents.
Ryan was planning the wedding of his dreams. He reserved the Fairmont Pacific Rim in Vancouver for the reception, spending $55,000 total. He invited 280 guests, including his entire Microsoft team and extended family. He planned an elaborate fusion ceremony combining Western vows with authentic Punjabi traditions he had studied for months. In December 2023, Meera made her most dangerous gamble yet. She filed an emergency divorce from Arjun, claiming attempted murder. She bribed a court official to expedite the proceedings illegally. Most importantly, she arranged for the divorce papers to be served only after she left India, ensuring Arjun wouldn't know she was gone until it was too late. She also created a false travel history showing previous visits to Canada, making her visa application look more legitimate. On January 15, 2024, Meera boarded a flight to Vancouver on a visitor visa. As the plane lifted off from Delhi, she knew there was no turning back. She was about to meet Ryan Thompson for the first time in person, and he had no idea that everything about her was a lie. When Ryan picked her up at Vancouver International Airport, he was holding flowers and a sign with her name. Meera stepped off the plane and into his arms, playing the role of the nervous bride meeting her beloved fiancé. She performed perfectly, but inside, she was calculating every move. The wedding was set for August 3, 2024. Ryan thought he was marrying the love of his life. Meera knew she was committing the most elaborate immigration fraud in Canadian history. Neither of them knew that thousands of miles away in Chandigarh, Arjun Malhotra was about to discover what his wife had done, and that discovery would set in motion a chain of events that would end in blood. August 3, 2024 was supposed to be the happiest day of Ryan Thompson's life. The Fairmont Pacific Rim had been transformed into a stunning blend of Indian and Canadian cultures, with marigold garlands draped alongside maple leaf decorations.
280 guests filled the elegant ballroom, including Ryan's entire Microsoft team, extended family, and friends who had watched him struggle through years of loneliness. A professional videographer captured every moment for $12,000, knowing this footage would be treasured for generations. Meera looked breathtaking in her $20,000 red and gold lehenga, while Ryan wore a custom ivory sherwani that had cost him weeks of research to get right. A Sikh priest performed the authentic Anand Karaj ceremony that Ryan had studied obsessively for months. Meera's performance that day deserved an Academy Award. She cried genuine tears, but they weren't tears of joy. They were a mixture of guilt, relief, and absolute terror. She executed every traditional ritual flawlessly, having prepared through intensive YouTube tutorials and practice sessions. She charmed Ryan's family with practiced grace and perfect humility, all while mentally calculating the exact number of days until she would be eligible for permanent residency. Ryan was in pure bliss. He declared to everyone within earshot, "This is the happiest moment of my existence." During the ceremony, he even video called his parents' memorial site, wanting them to witness his joy. He promised Meera's fake parents over video call that he would cherish their daughter forever. He was already planning a surprise honeymoon trip to India to meet her extended family. The irony was heartbreaking. The Sikh priest blessed them as souls united by divine will across lifetimes. Guests threw rose petals, celebrating what they believed was a perfect cross-cultural union. The wedding video captured Ryan vowing, "Nothing will ever separate us," while Meera whispered Punjabi prayers begging forgiveness for her sins. Married life began like a fairy tale. Meera transformed Ryan's cold, minimalist condo into a warm, authentic Indian home. She decorated with traditional artifacts and family photos that were completely fake but looked convincingly real. She cooked elaborate Punjabi meals that made Ryan's co-workers intensely jealous when he brought leftovers to work. Ryan was completely content. He bragged to his Microsoft colleagues about his brilliant, beautiful wife from Punjab. He planned to start a family immediately once her work permit was approved. He researched the best schools in Richmond for their future bilingual children. He talked constantly about buying a larger house to accommodate visiting Indian in-laws, who would never actually come. Meera played the devoted wife role perfectly while anxiously waiting for her work permit and permanent residency application to be processed. Everything was going according to plan. Then came September 28, 2024, and the first crack in paradise. Ryan was in the kitchen making coffee when Meera's phone rang. She was in the shower, so he answered it without thinking. A male voice immediately started screaming in Punjabi, demanding to speak with my wife immediately. Ryan had been taking language classes for a year, and he recognized some of the words: husband, money, kill. When Meera came out of the shower and found Ryan holding her phone, she saw the fear in his eyes. But she was ready for this moment. She broke down sobbing, claiming an ex-classmate had been stalking and harassing her for years. She said she hadn't mentioned it because the experience was too traumatic. She begged Ryan not to judge her for being the victim of male obsession. Ryan immediately felt terrible for doubting her. He apologized profusely and became fiercely protective of his wife. But something had shifted.
The seed of doubt was planted. Over the first week of October, warning signs began multiplying rapidly. Ryan discovered a $3,500 wire transfer to India that Meera claimed was emergency funds for her sister's wedding. He found her Indian passport with a completely different address than what was on their marriage application. During an emotional phone call, he heard her accidentally say "my husband" in Punjabi before quickly correcting herself to "my father." Most disturbing of all, when Ryan reverse-searched some of the landmarks in her family photos, the background details didn't match the locations she claimed they were taken. Ryan started systematically questioning every story Meera had told him. He noticed that she screened all phone calls and never let him answer her phone anymore. He realized she maintained 2 separate phones and claimed one was for work only. The stress began causing him panic attacks as the possibility of being deceived crept into his mind.
The final warning came from an unexpected source. Ryan's Punjabi colleague, Harpreet, mentioned casually that traditional Indian families involve the entire extended community in marriages. He asked why Ryan had never met Meera's aunts, uncles, cousins, or family friends. He suggested that authentic Indian marriages typically include multiple family verification steps and community involvement. Ryan suddenly realized that all of Meera's family interactions had been suspiciously isolated and minimal. In over a year of relationship, he had only spoken to her immediate family members and never to anyone else in her community. For a culture known for large, involved families, this was very strange. Late at night, lying in bed next to his wife, Ryan began to wonder if he really knew the woman sleeping beside him at all. He had no idea that his growing suspicions were about to uncover the most elaborate marriage fraud in Canadian history, or that his quest for the truth would soon put his life in danger. October 9th, 2024, 2:30 a.m. Ryan couldn't sleep. The doubts that had been growing for weeks were eating him alive. While Meera slept peacefully beside him, he quietly opened his laptop and typed her university name into Google. What he found destroyed his world in an instant. Punjab University had no record of any computer science graduate named Meera Kapoor. The fintech company she claimed to work for had been permanently shut down by Indian authorities in 2022 for fraud. Her entire educational and professional background was completely fabricated. Ryan's hands shook as he realized the scope of the deception. This wasn't just a few white lies about her past. Her entire identity was fake. The next morning, he called a private investigator in Vancouver. For $8,000, he hired an experienced PI to verify Meera's background in India. What came back 3 days later was devastating. The PI had discovered Meera's real address in Chandigarh, not Mohali as she had claimed. Official property records showed she lived with someone named Arjun Malhotra. But the worst part was the marriage certificate the PI obtained through local courthouse connections. Meera and Arjun Malhotra had been legally married since December 12, 2019. The evidence package that PI sent was irrefutable. Recent surveillance photos showed Meera with Arjun around their neighborhood. A complete wedding album from their 2019 Sikh ceremony showed over 400 guests celebrating their marriage. Property documents listed them as a legally married couple with joint ownership of their home. Bank records showed active joint accounts through July 2024, just 1 month before her marriage to Ryan. When Ryan saw the photos, he experienced a complete emotional collapse. The woman in the pictures looked exactly like his wife, but she was laughing and embracing another man. She was wearing traditional Indian wedding clothes, surrounded by families he had never seen before. This wasn't some forced marriage she had escaped from. These photos showed a happy couple. Ryan realized that his entire 18-month relationship had been an elaborate international criminal enterprise. He calculated his losses: $90,000 in wedding costs, legal fees, gifts, and the money he had sent for her engagement ceremony. But the financial loss was nothing compared to the emotional devastation. On October 12, 2024, at 10:15 p.m., Ryan decided to confront his wife. He waited until Meera was preparing dinner in the kitchen, then calmly placed the marriage certificate and surveillance photos on their dining room table. When she came out with his favorite curry, she froze. "I know everything, Meera. Or should I call you Mrs. Malhotra?" He was secretly recording the conversation on his phone, knowing he would need evidence for what was coming. Meera's immediate response was desperate denial. She claimed the photographs were digitally manipulated by a vengeful stalker. She insisted the marriage certificate was a fraudulent document created to frame her. She collapsed in hysterical tears, accusing Ryan of destroying their trust. She even threatened to call the police, claiming he was psychologically abusing her. But Ryan was prepared. He methodically presented his evidence: bank records with her real name and actual address in Chandigarh. A crystal-clear recording of Arjun calling her "my beloved wife" in Punjabi. The comprehensive PI report with sworn statements from their neighbors who had known them as a married couple for years. "I'm not angry, Meera," Ryan said, his voice breaking. "I'm heartbroken. Just tell me why."
Finally realizing her deception was completely exposed, Meera shifted tactics. She admitted to the existing marriage but claimed it was a forced arrangement by their families. She said she had genuinely fallen in love with Ryan during their courtship. She begged desperately for forgiveness and promised to divorce Arjun immediately so they could start fresh. But then her manipulation became dangerous. Meera claimed she had been protecting Ryan from the ugly truth about severe abuse. She said she had planned to reveal everything after securing Canadian citizenship safely. She insisted their emotional connection was completely real despite the fraudulent circumstances. Then she said something that chilled Ryan to his core. "We can eliminate Arjun if that's what it takes for us to be together." In that moment, Ryan understood that his wife was far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. She wasn't just a fraud, she was genuinely capable of extreme violence to achieve her goals. He realized that he had been sharing his home with someone completely unknown to him, and he began seriously fearing for his own physical safety. At 11:30 p.m., the mask fell completely. The sweet, submissive wife persona disappeared instantly and permanently. A cold, calculating criminal strategist took complete control of the conversation. Meera spoke with natural authority and made direct, specific threats. She revealed that she had been secretly recording their most intimate moments for blackmail purposes. The blackmail campaign began immediately. She claimed she would accuse Ryan of repeated sexual assault and domestic violence. She said she had photographic evidence of injuries, which Ryan now realized she had inflicted on herself to support her claims. She threatened to systematically destroy his Microsoft career with false harassment allegations. She warned him that the entire Indian community would automatically believe her version over his. Then Meera revealed her true master plan. She had intended to sponsor Arjun as a refugee fleeing domestic violence. She planned to divorce Ryan immediately after obtaining citizenship for both husbands. She had been systematically transferring his money to hidden offshore accounts. She had already filed a preliminary spousal abuse claim with immigration lawyers. Ryan realized with horror that he may not even be her only current legal husband.
The next morning, while Meera slept, Ryan began his own evidence-gathering campaign. He recorded all their conversations using hidden smartphone applications. He photographed documents she thought were safely concealed. He downloaded her computer files and discovered active communications with other Western men on international dating platforms. The scope of the criminal network was staggering. Meera had attempted identical schemes in Australia and the UK. She had fake profiles targeting wealthy men across multiple countries. This wasn't just personal fraud, it was organized international crime. Ryan contacted the Richmond RCMP Immigration Fraud Division and provided a comprehensive evidence package to Detective Lisa Long. He learned that building a prosecutable case would require months of investigation. Most terrifyingly, he realized he would have to continue living with the dangerous woman he now knew as Meera while gathering additional evidence. Every day, he wondered if she suspected what he was doing, and every night he went to sleep wondering if he would wake up alive. What Ryan didn't know was that thousands of miles away in Chandigarh, Arjun Malhotra had finally discovered what his wife had done, and Arjun was buying a plane ticket to Vancouver. October 18, 2024. While Ryan was gathering evidence against his wife, a man stepped off a flight at Vancouver International Airport carrying nothing but rage and a fraudulent business visa. Arjun Malhotra had finally discovered what his wife had done. At 33, Arjun was a broken man. Once a construction supervisor in Chandigarh, his gambling addiction had destroyed his business and family relationships. He had a history of violent domestic abuse. But in his mind, Meera was the real criminal. She had abandoned him and was now living as a married woman with a wealthy Canadian. Using Meera's social media posts, Arjun tracked down Ryan's Richmond address. For 5 days, he conducted surveillance, photographing them together. He learned about Ryan's wealth, his BMW, his expensive condo. In Arjun's twisted logic, this Canadian man had stolen his wife and owed him compensation. On October 22nd, Arjun called Microsoft's main office, pretending to be an immigration officer. "I'm calling about employee Ryan Thompson. We are investigating fraudulent marriage involving your employee, an Indian woman named Meera Kapoor, who is already married to another man." Ryan realized that both of his wife's husbands were now in the same city with dangerous intentions. The RCMP had been monitoring the situation through border security alerts. They made a strategic decision to watch rather than arrest Arjun immediately. Undercover officers were positioned around Ryan's building on October 23, 2024 at 7:45 p.m. All three lives collided for the final time. Meera agreed to the meeting, believing she could manipulate both men. Ryan wore a police wire while his condo was equipped with surveillance equipment. Arjun arrived heavily intoxicated and carrying a concealed kitchen knife. Meera immediately tried her final manipulation. She claimed she had been forced into marriage with Arjun at gunpoint. She told Ryan their relationship was genuine love. She promised Arjun money if he would return to India. She tried to convince both men that the other was the primary threat. But Arjun was beyond reasoning. He accused Meera of stealing her identity and future. He demanded Ryan pay him $150,000 for wife theft. He threatened to kill both unless given immediate payment. The alcohol and desperation made him increasingly violent. Ryan watched in shock as he realized Meera had destroyed multiple lives. He witnessed domestic violence firsthand. Seeing Arjun's pain beneath the threats, he understood how Meera created victims from everyone she touched. Then came the breaking point. Meera announced she was pregnant with Ryan's child, potentially another lie. She claimed pregnancy gave her the right to remain in Canada permanently. She threatened to disappear with the baby if either man exposed her. Both husbands realized they had been completely used and discarded. At 8:47 p.m., the lies turned lethal. When Meera threatened to disappear with the pregnancy, Arjun snapped. He attacked her with the knife, screaming about justice and betrayal. Ryan, despite everything, instinctively tried to protect her. The three-way struggle was captured on police surveillance equipment. Neighbors called 911, reporting screaming and violence. The RCMP tactical team stormed the condominium at 8:52 p.m. Paramedics worked on multiple victims with life-threatening injuries. One person was declared dead at the scene. 2 others were airlifted to Vancouver General Hospital. Blood evidence throughout the apartment told the complete story of desperation turned deadly. The legal consequences were severe. Criminal charges included immigration fraud, bigamy, conspiracy, forgery, and murder. From a hospital bed, the survivor provided detailed testimony about the psychological manipulation and systematic deception. The investigation revealed a sophisticated international criminal network. India launched an investigation of document forgery networks. Canada strengthened immigration verification procedures. Interpol coordinated with 8 countries investigating similar fraud cases. The broader investigation identified 31 additional victims across Canada, the United States, and Australia. Total losses exceeded $3.7 million. An international task force was established to combat marriage fraud organizations. Richmond's South Asian community organized fraud awareness workshops. The local Gurdwara established a legal aid fund for fraud victims. Marriage verification services were created to help legitimate couples.
This case demonstrates how fundamental human needs for love and security can be weaponized by international criminals. The intersection of immigration pressure, cultural differences, and emotional vulnerability creates perfect conditions for deception that destroys multiple lives. The tragedy extends beyond the violence to encompass how three people's legitimate aspirations were twisted into destructive forces that consumed everyone involved. The price of the Canadian dream for these individuals was paid in blood, broken trust, and shattered lives that will never fully heal.